Hello, coaches. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Spotlight. Today, I'm chatting with Angela Meiers, author, keynote speaker, early childhood educator, and founder of Choose to Matter. In this spotlight clip, we're focusing on our discussion around the essential conditions for learning. As Angela points out, we often make learning more complicated than it needs to be. Ensuring that these 7 conditions are met and customized for each learner's needs is the key to creating a successful learning environment for students and for teachers. In the full podcast episode, we talk about the importance of being vulnerable, finding joy in learning, and the power of community. If you're looking for inspiration about how to make learning experiences just right for each individual, make sure to subscribe to Coach Better wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better. I am super excited to be here today with Angela Meiers. We were just talking before the call started that we have actually known each other from a vast distance for many, many years. So it's super exciting for us to be here together in this, have an actual conversation. Angela, welcome.
Hi, it's great to see your face. I feel like I have been in conversation with you for over a decade. And you are such an inspiration to so many people. And when I was first starting out in this space, you were one of my most authentic connections. And it made this whole idea of connecting with people all over the world, which is just standard operating procedure now. It was so new back then, and it was so easy with you. And I just appreciate everything that you have contributed to my learning and to the learning of our community. So I'm very honored to be here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I feel like I can't even come close to saying a thank you so gracious as that. So I appreciate all of your time and energy and your inspirational words for all of us. Before we get too into the conversation, I'm sure that everyone knows who you are, but can you just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing?
Yeah, so when people ask me, this is like so funny because when people ask me, what do I do? I say, I change lives and I change the world. And they're like, okay, that's really sweet, but really, what do you do? I go, that actually is really what I do. And I do that in many different forms. So I think as a writer and a speaker, that our goal should be to disturb the universe. Our goal isn't to entertain. It's not even just to educate. It's not enough to just provide content or strategies. It is to remind people of what matters most and to remind people of what they're capable of. And so I've been doing that for 35 years. Sometimes it's in front of 5-year-olds where I started my career and learned everything there was to know about the world and leadership and learning. And then sometimes I do it with administrators or teachers, or could be CEOs of companies, or just pretty much anybody who sits by me on a plane, if they're lucky enough. But I think that we have this extraordinary opportunity to learn from each other every single second of the day. And it is, I'm like a new learner. I think when people say, like, when you get to a certain level of expertise, I don't ever want to get to a level of expertise. I want to embrace what it means to be amateur, because the root of that is amore. And I want to see the world through new lenses every single day. And so that's what I do as an educator in every sense of the word.
I couldn't agree with you more. And our manifesto at Eduro Learning right now is the relentless pursuit of better learning. And I think that's like exactly what you're talking about, this concept 100%. Of being a relentless learner.
Yes, relentless. I love that word.
I think it's just so fun, right?
It is. And it's, I think when it stuns me still to listen. It's hurts my heart when my daughter's in college, and to talk to her should be the most exciting time in human history to be a learner. I mean, learning's always been amazing, but there are still droves of children and droves of teachers that go to school every day, and it's a have to do. This is a get to do. It is a get to do to be alive in this world. Every day I post something on Facebook that is my new learning. So it's something that I discovered in the last 24 hours. And I've been doing this for probably a decade, just to show how much new there is every single second we're breathing. And it doesn't matter what it is. So today, there was the first, I don't know if it was a liver or a spleen, don't quote me on this, but a body part that was 3D printed, and it's human tissue that didn't have to be harvested from a human, that was delivered by a drone and saved someone's life. So I'm just like, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. Like, how can you be in a world? And then tomorrow it will be something equally as stunning. And it is, for school or learning to be anything less than a get to do, we're doing something wrong. We're missing the whole point of what relentless learning is. Learning's the most natural thing we do as human beings. The process is not complicated, and we complicate the heck out of it because we want to control all of it for teachers and for kids.
Yes.
That's a problem. That's a leadership problem. That's not a learning problem. That's a leadership problem.
When you work with leaders, how do you help them reframe their focus? Like, is there anything in specific you say or talk about with them?
Yes. So we talk about what I call the conditions of learning and what has to be there. And it doesn't matter if you're a superintendent. It doesn't matter if you're a 5-year-old. It doesn't matter if you're learning to ski or you're learning how to do the Pythagorean theorem. By science, when you look at the conditions that must exist for learning to thrive, not just for learning to potentially happen, but guarantees learning, then you can do it 2 ways. You can do it in the positive sense or the negative. I've done it both. But I want them to think of a time in their life where they failed learning something new, or a time in your life where you were extremely successful. And it's stunning that we don't talk about this learning theory. I mean, this learning theory's been around for decades and decades and decades. So it was from a researcher named Brian Camborne, and he studied it with language. So how do young learners master the complexity of oral language? So they have 7 things in common. They have feedback, they have approximation, they have modeling, they have, I forgot what the other ones are because I'm thinking really fast right now. But when you look at setting up PD, when you look at parent meetings, when you look at what I pay attention to in the classroom, every failure or frustration in learning can be tracked back to a condition of learning. And it's individual, even though these conditions are consistent across every context, whether you're learning to ski or you're learning to cook. Sometimes a learner can see a model one time, and all they need is just time to practice. They just need you to go away and practice. Another learner might need to see that demonstration 8 times and have feedback on their first, and then they're ready to practice. So that's where differentiated learning comes in, is the different conditions that are customized to your own comfortability level, but making learners aware that not only they deserve those conditions, they're responsible for creating and expecting those conditions. To be able to say, could you model that for me just one more time? Could I see that one more time? So I'm not afraid to say that anymore, where so many times, if you look at our focus, it's been on teaching and not moving forward learning, and learning theories completely. So if you just ask the question, so that's the long way around saying my first question to leaders is, what is learning? Because you cannot lead without being a learning leader or a learning organization. So we should get on the same page for that. What is learning? And so they talk about it being about the student. No, it's about the conditions that you create for learning to exist. So that's how I start with leaders.
Yeah, it's so cool to hear you talk about this, because I do almost the exact same conversation. And usually I'm thinking about it for teachers to help their learners. And I like exactly the same thing. Tell me about an experience where you learned something,
That's
you
right.
completed something, you felt successful about something.
That's
What
right.
were the conditions that were in that environment? How can we create that for our learners? Because very often we're not putting them in that kind of environment. And Sylvie and I, also going back to our previous conversation, just had the exact same conversation about switching the mindset, what you just said, switching the mindset. When we're talking about professional learning, we're not just talking about our students, because that's external from us.
Right.
We need to talk about internally as learners. How are we successful learners? Because once we understand that properly, we can provide that same environment for our kids. But if we don't get it yet, it's very hard to create that.
And one of the reasons we don't get it, first one, we don't talk about it, and we don't emphasize it. We emphasize teaching theory, not learning theory. The second is, if you look at 99% of the PD that I've been a part of that I couldn't control, that was already existing, has literally slaughtered all that. There's almost zero of those conditions of learning there, as if teachers don't need that or leaders don't need it. There is no modeling. There is no feedback. There's no time for practice. There's no validation of approximation. You either get it and you're a good teacher, or you resist it and you're a naughty teacher. So we have to experience true, delightful learning ourselves. And you can learn something hard and it can still be delightful, because almost even more delightful, because you're doing something hard and you can feel yourself getting better at it.
Yes.
Even though you're not, if you get rid of perfect, because perfect doesn't exist. So if we allow teachers first to experience the difference between PD of the past and PD and what it could be, as a joyful, relentless, excited, collaborative learner, most of the ways that we set up professional development break every rule of learning. They break all the brain's rules. So John Medina's 12 brain rules. If you walk in a million classrooms, what principals are looking for is the teaching point, the objective, whatever. They're not looking at learning. The goal of teaching is to move forward learning, period. And if learning has not moved forward in a confident, cohesive, conscious way, then we haven't done it. I don't care if you check off, I've done 57 strategies. So again, it goes back to the leaders. It helps them understand what it means to be a learner. And I don't know why schools of education don't teach or talk about learning theory, because that's our job. Our job is to be facilitators and advancers of learning, not deliverers of content. And if we understand that that is our indispensable quality, to create the conditions for learning to thrive, not content, because content can be outsourced. A robot could come in and deliver content, and we then become irrelevant. And our greatest fear comes to fruition. But if we understand that only we, meaning teachers, have the power to create and customize conditions of learning, no one can walk off the street and do that. Because no one can predict that, Jamie's going to need a lot of modeling, and that Cindy's going to need a lot of feedback, and that we have to put this in this form for so-and-so. So our greatest indispensable quality is our ability to create these conditions that our kids need and deserve.
Thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If this is a topic you want to dig deeper into and you're ready to explore in your own professional learning, please head over to edurolearning.com to see all of the great professional learning opportunities we have for you. You'll find registration dates for our next cohorts of COTAIL, The Coach, and Women Who Lead, and we only run those programs, each of those programs, once a year, so you want to make sure you know when registration opens. If you're interested in any of those programs, make sure you click on the I'm interested link so that you can get updates and be the first to know when registration opens. Also at Eduro Learning, we've got self-paced courses if you need to earn clock hour credits for recertification, and we've got downloadable workbooks to help take you through all different aspects of professional learning for you as an individual, or working with the team, or at the whole school-wide level. If there's anything you are looking out for or any questions you have, please reach out to us on social media. We love hearing from you, and join our Facebook group, Coach Better. See you next time.